What is this weird show?
Whoa, what? Darkwing Duck? The greatest TV show of all time?
Maybe when you were a kid. This hero guy doesn't fly or shoot lasers or anything.
That hero guy is Jim Starling. He was an old school actor who did all his own stunts. Sure, he got a little banged up in later seasons.
Ow! Oh, keep rolling.
But that just made him even more heroic. True hero thinks with his gut or not at all. Right, DW?
Let's get dangerous.
What was that?
Darkwing Duck!
Suck gas, evildoers. Welcome to another Flashquack episode of the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. I'm your host, Will Santana, and...
I'm Mike Russo, and I know a lot about this one thing.
All right, Mike, we are doing a 2020 predictions of Darkwing and expectations, and we got two special guests with us today. We got Felicia, aka Gadget, and we got Tim.
Hey.
Hi.
Yeah, we got Felicia, aka Gadget. Gadget's been with us. She was on the Paradox episode with us. And we got newcomer Tim, who recently did an interview with Tad Stones. And you can check out that interview. It's on our St. Canard Files, the Darkwing Duck podcast Facebook page. It's also on Instagram. And he also shared it in another Facebook group called Darkwing Duck Forever. Guys, we're going to do some 2020 here. Y'all ready?
Yes.
Sure.
Tim,
I can't wait.
Our listeners know nothing about you, man. Just give us a quick introduction of how you got into Darkwing.
Well, I saw the original show back in the very early 90s, and like all three of you, I became instantly addicted. I recorded every episode and kept those close to my heart until probably about the mid-2000s when the DVDs came out. And I'm really enjoying this new incarnation of the character too. That's come out on the new Ducktales. So yeah, I'm a lifelong Darkwing fanatic.
Okay, for those of you who can't tell, obviously Tim is from the UK, and we will have Tim back on our podcast for a later episode, and we'll give you more of Tim's history, and we'll also let Tim maybe tell us the difference between the UK and the US versions. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all right,
I
guys.
would love that.
You would love that, Gadget?
Yeah, because I heard there was always a difference because of their censorship over there and everything.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to get into this roundtable, and our first subject, our first question, can we expect a 2020 reboot of Darkwing on Disney this year? Mike, start us off.
I think it's possible. The only thing that makes me think it might not happen is the fact that nothing's been announced yet. Of course, when Ducktales was announced, that was in 2015, and it didn't come out until 2017. So if they're working on something, to announce that it's coming out this year, they have to be pretty deep into production. So I kind of have my doubts, although I think something is coming.
All right, Felicia?
Hard to say, but Mike might be on to something. There's a lot of things dealing with the voiceovers and everything. It's not gonna might be a spinoff, maybe. I'm not sure. But they have been working on something in the works, and I don't want to get in trouble anymore.
All right, Tim, what do you think, man? You think there's a possible Darkwing reboot for 2020?
Well, it appears that with the DuckTales show, they're kind of doing their Marvel Universe expanded thing, where they're kind of like, you've all seen the poster where they've got all the different Disney Afternoon characters kind of scattered across it. And so it looks like they're investing a lot of time into that. And I imagine just to plot this stuff now, because it's so well written now. It's always been well written, but it's extremely well written children's television, and just the work power to do that, I think, to channel all that, and us not knowing, as you say, having nothing been announced, it would seem like it would just be quite a quick turnaround to suddenly throw it out there. But who knows? When you see, I think we all saw those pictures of Goslin and Taurus Bulba that had been released. I think it was one of the Comic Cons. So unless there may be taking Darkly Dawns the Duck, that origin episode of Darkwing Duck, and incorporating it into DuckTales, perhaps, maybe, they are doing something, kind of beyond that. I don't know, but it's very exciting.
So, Mike, you don't think there's going to be a 2020, but maybe in the future?
I definitely think something's going to happen, but the only way for it to happen, like I said, in 2020, is if they're already deeper into production about it and they surprise us with it. For it to happen in 2020, they can't treat it like they did with DuckTales that we knew for 2 full years beforehand. Anything is possible, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I think an announcement is definitely possible.
Okay, and Gadget, do you think like maybe they'll just hype it up for another, throughout 2020 before they get released? You think it needs a little more hype on it with the DuckTales series?
Well, as you know, at the end of DuckTales, you saw who Fowl is and everything. So they have to continue with that story and maybe possibility, because as you've seen from the posters, look at our Goslin and everything. There's gonna be something coming, but
they're introducing more Darkwing stuff than I think this show has room for. That's why I think something's gonna happen.
Okay, well, speaking of Goslin, what are your expectations of Goslin on the new DuckTales season 3? We've already seen some photos of her.
I cosplayed her twice in her old and new school.
Well, one thing I did find out recently, I was looking at Frank Angonis's Twitter, and he dropped a mention that Goslin seems to be like she's going to be Latina. That's an interesting thing to do with the character. It's different, some diversity. And he did mention her being adopted is still going to be a part of the show. Apart from that, I don't have many expectations yet because the new DuckTales does tend to change characters up a bit. So we have no idea what to expect, really.
Tim, what do you expect? You got any expectations on Goslin?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've got kind of 2 points on this really, and that's in the original Darkwing Duck, the character, the main protagonist. We learned that he had no canon backstory, and that Tad Stones was very much going for this continuity of verse approach where you can have different origins for the character, and he was very much this egotistical superhero. And what's kind of interesting is when they brought Goslin in, she became the heart of the show, and she gives a lot of that Disney heart to the show, and in the new DuckTales, it's completely different. He's an actor, and he's seemingly a past victim of school bullying. I think we see a flashback of that in the origin story.
Yeah.
And he takes inspiration from that childhood TV hero that he's watching, who teaches him to always get up no matter what. And it's obviously a meta point that's being made, I think, to a lot of us about childhood nostalgia and what it ultimately means to us. And it's really what DuckTales is all about as well. But there's that theme about the hero who always gets back up no matter what. And that's very strong. And that's a lot of Disney heart. And we've had that in DuckTales before we've even got to a Darkwing Duck show. So I just think if they bring Goslin in, how will she fit into that thematically? Because already she's, we've got a lot of heart in there. The other thing as well is too, when Goslin was originally came into Darkwing Duck, on the original show, she was a wild and anarchic character. We'd had Webbergale, we'd had DuckTales, which is this very wide-eyed, kind of pure TV show, and then all of a sudden you had this kind of this wilder character who's more like Bart Simpson, and I wonder how you're going to get across that kind of loud, hyperactive, kind of precocious, edgy sense now. Maybe they'll do less is more. Who knows?
Gadget, what do you think?
Well, you got to remember it's based on Tad's daughter. That's how she was drawn. Everything, it came from his own daughter at that age when she was 2 and everything. And now you've got Webby being the more Goslin of the 90s and everything with the new DuckTales and stuff. I'm seeing more, this Goslin's going to still keep her tomboy attitude and everything, but she may have a few secrets that nobody knows about yet. She might be a whiz or something.
Mike, feeding off what Gadget just said, what are you expecting from her character?
I don't think she's going to be exactly like the old one was already design-wise. She looks pretty different, and they're definitely getting culturally diverse with her as well. So I definitely think she could very well be a lot different than we're expecting. All Frank Angonis has really said that the dynamic between Darkwing and Goslin is still going to be the same, but I think anything else is up for grabs, really. I think we can't be so sure she'll be the same as she was 30 years ago. I think there'll be a difference.
Tim, real quick, what do you think? What do you think how her personality is going to be or her character is going to be?
Well, kind of lean back to what I said before. I think now you've got, I think points been made brilliantly just now as well, that the character of Webby now is very sort of loud and hyperactive and much more precocious than what we saw in the 80s. And I think now every character, every young female character in a TV show, in a Disney TV show, is kind of what Goslin was back then. So
Right.
I kind of want to have that extreme with her when she comes, that she that we still feel this kind of big energy, because she's such a great character, and to balance a superhero so well and so memorably, it's such an iconic character that I'm sure they are going to pull it off. They will pull it off.
All right. Do you guys think the new DuckTales will pair Darkwing and Launchpad again, or a little more often? Let's start off with you, Gadget.
I think they're going to probably make it more of a friendship, possible the tone that it was in the 90s that I talked about, where in my YouTube video about the anniversary when they had the gay undertones and everything, because a lot of people always brought that up, that why is it two men raising a small child and everything back in the 90s. So I'm wondering the way it is, especially the way Launchpad acts around Della when she was at the staircase and everything, like she's hitting on him and he's like trying to back off as fast as he can and everything. So I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen, if they're going to go towards that way with the new generation and everything, and they're going to make the characters more, more modern and everything.
Okay, Tim?
I to be honest, I haven't seen too much of the new show. I've tried to get the Ducktales out, the Darkwing Duck episodes, kind of see those, but I think we'll probably see them team up again in further episodes, because I think just looking at that poster for season 3, I think that there's something in store. Okay,
Mike?
Me personally, I think the next time Darkwing shows up, he's going to end up going up against Gizmo Duck. I think the two of them next time they did Launchpad and Darkwing together. Yeah. I think next time they sowed the seeds already with their meeting in Moonvasion. Mm-hmm. I think next time they do Darkwing, it's going to be with Gizmo Duck. They've done him with Launchpad. Now they're probably going to do something different. They're going to put him with Gizmo Duck. And Frank and Gonis has said on Twitter that they're going to do more with the two of them, and that their rivalry is all in Darkwing's head.
Gadget, what do you think about the Gizmo and Darkwing?
I was cracking up the way he looked at Gizmo, like, I'm going to kill you, type of thing. Like, get out of my spotlight, you hack.
All right.
The character of him is coming through.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's move on. Next topic, we got Negaduck. Is Negaduck returning to DuckTales for season 3? Let's start off with you, Tim.
Well, if it's never Negaduck, why not Negatron? Why not go? We've had Jim Cummings sort of coming back and doing that. They did that sleight of hand where we thought he was going to be Darkwing, and then he turned out to be Negaduck in a cameo. But I think I forget the actor's name, Chris Diamantopoulos, the guy who's now playing him. I think he's so good. Why can't he do an evil performance and do a Negatron?
Okay, well, Mike.
I think, I don't see why not. I mean, it's probably just going to happen one time. This show has a lot to juggle. More than just the Darkwing stuff. This season's bringing in Goof Troop, Tailspin, Wuzzles, Rescue Rangers. So I think it's going to happen probably for one episode. But yeah, he's definitely coming back.
Gadget?
Oh, we haven't seen the last of Negaduck, and I will leave it at that.
All right, guys, before we wrap up Negaduck, Jim Cummings, you think Jim Cummings will continue to be Negaduck?
Yes.
Maybe.
All right, guys, well, at the end of season 2 of DuckTales, we had a big cliffhanger. All us Darkwing fans got really excited, and we got to see Fowl. What are your upcoming expectations for Fowl in season 3? Let's start off with Gadget.
That was the biggest plot twist that I had to stay silent about, because that was like so cool, because I kept watching and I said, they look so familiar. And then when I got the news, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is going to turn everybody's heads up. Like they're going to go boom, explosions and everything. Cause they're like, what? And everything. Cause this is now with season 3 coming. Now you got Fowl, Negaduck, it's going to be big.
All right, Mike.
Okay, so I think we're going to see lots of Fowl, because they're clearly going to be that season's overarching villain. Definitely. And it's going to tie more into, I think, Scrooge and the family than Darkwing. So we're probably going to see a lot more Fowl than Darkwing, honestly, I think. Especially because every villain in this show, except for the regulars, are going to be part of Fowl now. Gandra D, John D. Rocker Duck, the Funzo guy in the mascot costume. All these characters are Fowl agents now. So we're going to see a lot of Fowl. I'm pretty sure of it. They're going to be our villains throughout season 3. I don't have a doubt about that. They're probably going to have a lot of fun with it, too. Although I think when they do bring in Steelbeak, it'll be in a Darkwing episode. I don't see why they wouldn't do that. But who knows? There's a lot to probably do, like 20-some-odd episodes. We'll probably see them in at least half of it.
Now, Tim, I don't know if you're able to answer this one because I know you said y'all were having issues with Disney out there in UK and the new DuckTales. Were you able to get the glimpse of Fowl?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And what are your expectations for them coming up?
Well, I think it's very interesting because they had the episode Agent 22 before where you see Beakley and Scrooge meet each other, and they introduced Fowl there, and they had this new character, the Black Heron, and they also brought in Shush as well too. So they've established that, and interestingly as well, it's the fiendish organization of world larceny they used in this current DuckTales, and not the foreign organization of world larceny, which they had in the original DuckTales TV show. So that's kind of interesting. And then I guess Shush is where I think will be quite interesting too, because you've got that mirror with Fowl and Shush, and Grizzlycoff, will he come back? I mean, at that time when Darkwing originally came out, it was very much a sort of man from Uncle kind of trope, having a Cold War trope of having the Russian American teaming up. And of course, times have changed now, and I wonder what they'll do with that.
Gadget, with Fowl coming back, and Fowl probably maybe being the main villain for season 3. What are your expectations of Steelbeak and Ammonia Pine?
Well, you had to look at the silhouettes, because if you looked in the background, you saw a lot of returning favorites and everything. But I think they're going to be like pawns in a bigger game. I'll give you that.
Mike?
Coming in? Well,
with the Steelbeak and Ammonia Pine?
Well, definitely Steelbeak. I'm really hoping they get Rob Paulson.
Oh,
I mean,
that would be awesome.
That's good. That's going to upset me if they got to bring in Rob Paulson. But we'll see. They might not. He's already on the show, so I don't see why they wouldn't. Ammonia Pine, though, she's not a fan favorite. I don't think anyone's like dying for her to come back. If she does, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But if she doesn't, whatever.
Maybe a cameo.
But they have a lot to work with. Like I said, I mentioned all those villains. They even have the Phantom Blot, the old Mickey Mouse comic villain. So they have a lot going on. So if Ammonia Pine doesn't show up, they still have their deck is pretty stacked right now. So,
Tim, on Steelbeak and Ammonia Pine?
Yeah, Steelbeak, certainly. I mean, obviously we saw him before. It'll be. I'm quite curious to know as well how they're going to position Steelbeak, because I always felt as a fan watching the original show in the early 90s, I always thought they set up Steelbeak as kind of being this grand boss, and he was the big boss at the end of the video game as well, which you remember, where they had all the villains coming together.
Right.
And I wonder if they'll maybe tread into that, because it always seemed like we never really got a closure to Fowl in the series, and they brought the Terminator into it. They brought Taurus Bulba back, but it always felt a little unresolved. So
Fowl
who knows?
just kind of petered out in the original show.
Yeah. All right, guys, moving along. What Darkwing merchandise can we expect in 2020 from Disney World, Disneyland, and Tim? I guess from you, maybe was it Disney Paris?
Sorry?
For you, ain't it Disney Paris you got out there in the UK?
Well, I mean, we have aeroplanes. I can get to Disney World if I need to. I actually haven't been to any of these. I do go to the Disney stores quite regularly, and I actually picked up last year. They had all of the mugs for the Disney afternoon shows that we grew up on, and I cleaned those up. And so I'm hoping they have something like that, maybe some caps. I think because it's the 20th anniversary this year of the Disney afternoon, I think maybe we're in store for a surprise.
Actually, this year's the 30th anniversary of the Disney afternoon.
Yep.
I apologize. I generously taken a decade off for us there.
But that's a big factor in it, honestly. The fact that the Disney afternoon turns 30 this year. If we see merchandise for Darkwing, I really think it's going to be related to that.
Just grab it. I'm going to be honest with you. Just grab it, because.
But watch it be all park merchandise.
Actually, this is the thing. What you'll find in the parks is the old school Darkwing pins and everything, because I have scouts out there looking for them and everything. Also, because of the not so good sales with the Ducktales figures and everything, they are holding back. I can say that.
I heard about that.
Yeah, they are holding back some of the Darkwing stuff that was out, because I had been looking for the Goslin that was supposed to be out. I even had it pre-ordered, and it was supposed to be for the start of season 3, and they pulled it right away and everything. But you can still possibly find around Halloween time the Morgana pin, as well as the old school Darkwing pin at Disneyland, more so because you still have Gadget's coaster over there and everything, so you'll find it around that area.
Okay, but Mike, for 2020, do you think there will be like any new releases, anything new exclusive from pins, shirts, hats, anything? Darkwing only.
I think definitely. But again, I think it's going to be a part of a merchandising push for the 30th anniversary of the Disney Afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
But Darkwing will obviously be a part of that. There'll probably be shirts and pins. Probably most of what we'll see will be Disney Parks exclusives, because that's just how it's been. Other than that, I can't really make much of a guess right now, because a lot of that kind of stuff is really random and unpredictable.
Well, you can come to my page, because I was given permission for something, but it has my logo on it, but it's got Negaduck and Darkwing on it, if you need a shirt right away.
And Tim, you got anything you think might drop out on 2020 at these Disney parks, like pins, a shirt, anything you're expecting?
I would really like to have a baseball cap. That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Oh,
that would be.
All right. Well, guys, let's move on. Do you think we can expect more Villains Funko Pops releases in 2020? Let's start off with you, Mike.
I think the further away we get from that initial batch of Funko Pops, I think the less likely it is. I mean, it's been over a year since the Megavolt came out, and that wasn't even a retail. That was like Black Friday at GameStop. So I'm starting to lose a bit of hope for it, but anything is possible. I really hope they do a couple more, but my hopes aren't too high for it at this point. They were higher like about 6 months ago, but since we've gotten nothing, maybe they'll surprise us. Who knows?
All right. Tim, how about you?
I think there's a possibility there, I guess, maybe because of the Disney Plus stuff being exposed to younger kids, and there might be more interest and there might be more of demand for it there. And obviously the new show too.
Gadget?
I was at New York Comic Con, and I spoke to some people at Funko, and it has to do with all the reboots and everything, but they did say there was talk of the Thunderquack.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Oh, one of those Funko rides where it's the figure, and yeah, I've seen those. Those are neat. If they do that, it's going to be awesome.
They were in works on it, but they had to halt. I asked them specifically because I was looking for what they had available of Goslin, Darkwing, and everything, and they said a lot of production has been halted, not only with Disney, but other companies as well, because there's been so many revamps and everything, and that the market exploded with Funko.
Tim, is there a specific villain you would like to see drop from Funko?
I mean, could you imagine the Liquidator? That is
clear blue plastic.
That clearish blue. Ooh, that would be cool if it lights up.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a drinking glass almost, couldn't it, or something?
That would be, yeah. If someone could make that.
Yeah, you got to pick a different villain. Who would you like to see?
Oh God, there was so many. I would say it was a toss-up between Negaduck and Bushroot, because I would love to have a dancing Bushroot.
Dancing one? Mike, how about you?
Well, I got my Megavolt Pop. I have my Bushroot action figure. I'm gonna make you happy and say Quacker Jack. He needs merchandise.
Yes, he does.
Quacker Jack really needs merchandise. He's never been put on merchandise. There's no Quacker Jack toys. Someone needs to do something for Quacker Jack.
And he got dropped also as the main villain first in Ducktales when Launchpad was watching Darkwing on VHS. Remember?
Yeah.
So Quacker Jack has to get his own just due and everything for this because of everything. Especially that banana that he talks to. Oh God, that was funny.
All right, Gadget, I'm gonna start this next one off with you. You kind of brought this up a little bit earlier. If we get a reboot, do you think we'll get some action figures for Darkwing in 2020?
We will, because they have to do the comparison. We might get the old schools first, because they might want to do that, because you already see that they're starting with the old schools. But once we get the new Goslins and the new Darkwings and Launchpads all together in that one set, that's going to be so cool. and everything and stuff, because I'm hoping it's through Funko as well as the company that was releasing the DuckTales ones as well, because it's gonna look beautiful once they do it. I just hope that Honker gets involved in it too.
Yeah. How about you, Mike?
See, Felicia obviously knows things I don't, but I'm not as positive only because those Fat Mojo figures from Target, those sold so poorly, and they had to put them on deep discount just to get rid of them. And then like a year ago, they unveiled a whole other wave with Della and Gizmo Duck, and that got canceled. And they said, oh, maybe we'll release Gizmo Duck to see if people even care, but that hasn't happened yet. I really think that's not going to happen, honestly. And with Funko, like even the Disney Afternoon action figures, I mentioned this on a different episode we did. The first wave hung around for like 2 years on discount. The second wave came and went, and they didn't do them this year. So I'm kind of iffy on action figures. I think anything's possible, but if we get something, it won't be those Target action figures they did with DuckTales. I think it'll be something entirely different because those I think crashed and burned. So we'll have to wait and see.
Think more Disney Store than anything else, because
I'm thinking about those PVC figure box sets they do all the time. I think if we get something, it's gonna be something like that.
Well, I'm hoping they're doing the ones that it's the actual those statue types, because Disney was talking about those too.
Yeah, those little figurines. My daughter has a ton. She has them for DuckTales.
No, actual statue type.
Statues?
I'm talking about statues. They're because of the anniversary.
Tim, how about you, man? If there's a reboot, you think they're going to release some action figures?
Well, it's interesting actually what Mike was saying about the the cancelled line. It's sort of a mirror, isn't it, of what happened with the Darkwing Duck stuff when it originally came out. And over here in the UK, this is quite unfortunate. I remember I think it was probably 1993, going to one of the biggest toy stores in Britain here, and they, I said I want Darkwing Duck toys, and they said that they just flat out said that hasn't caught on here. And I went about a couple of months ago to one of the biggest toy shops in London, and I said, do you have any DuckTales toys, the new DuckTales? And they looked at me and they said a variation of what they said to me 25 years ago, so I don't know if DuckTales is such a big brand and it's proved immensely popular and it's been a huge success, so many followers, yet for whatever reason, for the reasons that Mike kind of stated, it looks like that might not be happening, I don't think, if it's with an offshoot like Darkwing Duck.
Okay. All right, guys, let's move along to the next one. We got what convention featuring a Darkwing cast member from the original show is a must attend? Let's start off with you, Tim, with you being overseas out there in the UK, because I know y'all got different conventions and stuff that we're not hearing about.
Right. I don't really know the convention circuit too well, actually, but the obvious one would be Tim Curry, Taurus Bulba. I think anyone would turn up for him for multiple reasons, but also I think actually all of the cast members I'd turn up with. I'd love to see all of them.
Well, just to expand on what you said, if you're gonna see Tim Curry, you got to do it soon. His health is not looking too good right now.
No, he's gonna only do a few more and that's it.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Mike?
Well, the big one for me is I want to meet Jim Cummings, and I'm gonna get my chance later this year. Can't believe it's already 2020. I'll be meeting him in June, provided I can still make this convention. Other than that, I'm okay. I mean, I'm sure eventually I'll meet Tad Stones, but for now, Jim is the big one. Jim was the voice of my childhood, so he's my big one. And this convention in Altoona, Pennsylvania, I should be going to that, so I'm actually content for the moment.
I don't think
Jim would remember us meeting, because I forget if it was New York Comic Con or one of the other cons, because I went, I don't think you're Darkwing, until he did the voice, and I went, I was like, no, because he was at one of the comic book signings for Darkwing Duck when they released the comic again, and I was like, it can't be. And then he did Winnie the Pooh, and I was like, yeah, it's you, and everything. But I don't think he'll remember. It was so long ago and everything. But he is like, I can't wait. I've been trying to track him where he's closest for cons and everything. But I thought he was at MCM out in the UK and everything the last time and stuff.
Well, I know for me, I've already met Katie Lee, I met Jim, I met Terry McGovern, and I met Michael Bell. So Rob Paulson will be in Huntsville, Alabama in a few months for me. So that's going to be big for me to finally meet Rob Paulson.
Oh,
But
Wow.
he's a
if you're in the
sweetheart.
Kentucky area, so Jim Cummings and Terry McGovern will be there together at the Lexington Toy Comic Con, and then if you're in the Florida area, Katie Lee and Jim Cummings will be together at Pensacon.
I missed a chance to meet Rob Paulson a few months ago. He was in New York City at a Barnes & Noble signing his new book, and I learned about it day of because Rob Paulson was on the radio plugging his appearance, and there was no way I was going to be able to go to that. But I had a chance, and I missed it.
He was at New York Comic Con. He was really sweet and everything when he did the Turtles panel and everything. And he was like, Gadget! And I'm like, yeah, hi.
All right, guys. Well, we're out of time for round one of this podcast of the Flashquack. Tim, can you give us a quick plug of where people can find you at?
Sure. I actually have an interview with Tad Stone that you can find at www.timpartridge.info/dw.html.
Okay, and Gadget, where can the listeners find you at?
Well, I have my Gadget Pendragon page on Facebook, as well as Gadget Vlogs there, as well as my YouTube channel, Gadget Vlogs. And like I said, Customized Girl, just look up Gadget and you'll find the shop. If you need to get the Darkwing shirt, message me, because that one they will not allow due to certain copyrights. They had it on only for a week to let me show it to everybody when Darkwing premiered. And you can always catch me anytime on Facebook, Instagram, Gadget7676.
All right, and Mike, you're the newest voice in here. I don't think people's ever heard your voice before.
Oh, well, I'm on like every single social media platform. I say it every week. No, I'm only on Facebook. Mike Russo. You can find me there, and that's really all I think. That's really all I do. Facebook.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all for listening to round one of our roundtable. Make sure y'all tune in next week to round two, and we'll catch you then. And make sure stay dangerous.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.